Welcome to the Stack Supplement Podcast, the premier source for supplement news and reviews.
We are back with another episode of the Stack Supplement Podcast, and it is another interview edition. This time we have the man behind Naughty Boy, which is a company that's almost come out of nowhere. In a sense, it's 6 months running so far, and they've just been hitting many categories right out of the gate with reliable, effective formulas. And so, thank you for coming on. It's Clint from Naughty Boy.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks for inviting me on, and thanks for the support so far with the brand.
Yeah, no worries. So, I mean, we'll start the Q&A off. So how did, for those that aren't familiar with Naughty Boy, it's a very lifestyle kind of based brand. Launched with a pre-workout and Menace, well put together pre-workout, and you've done several other categories so far. So my first question would be, how much planning went into the start? Because typically companies that launch big out of the gate have 6 on the go, or like 5 products ready from the start. You did 1, but then you did hit like another one like a couple of months later, and then so on and so on and so on. So it was a very fast pace. It has been that way since you guys started. How much planning, was there like a year of thought behind this before the brand actually launched, or was it just, hit the ground running type thing?
To be honest, it all came together quite quickly, but it was just an idea to start off with. That wasn't anything serious. We started looking at possibly bringing a product out, which was probably back in April 2019, and it was just an idea of bringing a pre-workout to market, a bit of fun. Pre-workouts obviously being one of your better selling categories, and we thought we'll just bring out a pre-workout, a bit of fun. We started looking at names, and we come up with this name based on, a lot of people like naughty type pre-workouts, and it was going to be a one-off pre-workout. It was going to be something a bit naughty. It was going to be a strong pre-workout, and we was just going to run with that. And then as we thought of the name, and then we started, looking at designs, and it started to run, I sat back and actually thought this could go further than just doing that. And as we started to work on designs and we started to get a few bits and bobs together, I thought to myself, no, do you know what? This could lead on to something else. So we got Menace together, we got the formula together, we sampled Menace, and to be honest, it's quite a basic formula, but it pretty much gives you everything based on 30 servings. Where nowadays a lot of pre-workouts are 20 servings. So I wanted to go the older route and keep it 30 servings, but also 30 full servings. Not where, like I say, everything else seems to be, to get the full effect, you have to take the 2 scoops. And it sort of came together quite well. The feedback was amazing. So we got Menace up and running, and then from there everything seems to have just run so quickly. I think a bit of it's myself. I get a little bit obsessed once I get involved with something. I do get a little bit obsessed. That you look at other brands and see what possibly what they're doing, how far they've come, and it just spurs you on and gives you that motivation. Not necessarily to copy anyone else, but just it gives that motivation, thinking, well, we want to do that, we want to get there, and that's how things have moved quite quickly. And to be honest, we've been happy with everything that we've put out so far. Sometimes you see brands bring something out, and then after that they might bring something out that flops, because they're trying to keep that pace. Where to be honest, I've been really happy with what has come out so far in terms of formulas, branding. There's always going to be things that you can possibly go back and change, and we're not scared to do that. It's been fun. It's been enjoyment. Up so far, it's been really enjoyable, and it's not like work. It's not pressure. It's just flowing at the moment.
The categories you guys have done, I would say, seem very flowing, from the start where you did a pre-workout, and it felt kind of like, what should we do next if we're going to do one? And then it was a pump, and then you had, I think it was you had the fat burner, but I know there was something between then. But yeah, it seemed very free flowing. It seemed very just like one to the next to the next.
Yeah.
And it seems like you have a lot of experience with the like to be able to keep things going like this. I mean, a lot of newcomers don't really do that. They'll do the one, they'll put the next one into the works. That'll take them 6 months. So I would ask, you obviously have a lot of experience, just to see just how efficient Naughty Boy has been.
Yeah, well, to be honest, like I say, I have, funny enough, I've been in the industry for about 12 years now, for 12, 13 years. And it was distributing, UK, European and US brands. So, I'm used to being around brands, I'm used to being around formulations, I'm used to being around branding. But it did actually get to a point where I took 18 months out of the industry, and I wasn't sure whether I would come back to the industry until I, came across this idea, and it's just took off massively for us. But in terms of products, like I say, the idea was just really to launch a pre-workout, and then you start to look at categories in the industry, and I want to bring something to market that's going to sell. You might get brands that will bring out like a one-off formula, a special formula, but they're like sometimes, untried and tested, where if you're hitting a category which will sell, and you bring out a steady formula and the branding looks good. Because with a lot of brands, what I've seen, over the period of time of being in the industry, some brands look amazing, but then the formulas are lacking, or you get vice versa. So from day one, my goal was to bring something out that was solid, where it's not over the top, but people can't say, well, that's a bad formula. Look at this, look at that. People will always point at negatives, but nobody can rip the formula apart. And then when you look at the branding also stands out and good. So I think so far we've achieved both, and I think that's quite difficult to do, to be honest. I think most brands go one way or the other. They don't have much of an idea of branding, and the formulas might be great, but to be honest, being in the industry that a long time, I think the buyer, or the majority of buyers, will a lot of the time go off how the product looks. That's just my experience. So yeah, I've brought a lot of experience in, but I have also learned a lot in the last, in the last 6 months since we've had products on the ground. I'm learning all the time, and I'm going to continue to learn. And we're probably going to get products where they come out and they're not as successful, but I'm happy to learn, and I'm happy to even go back and readjust.
I agree with the marketing standpoint. That was when we started 10 years ago. That was very much the case. Like, companies that had just awesome packaging, state of the art kind of bottles and boxes, like the stuff that's really stood out on the shelves. They didn't really have the formulas that measured up at something that was just, like jacked looking. It was just a
exactly.
white tub, nothing too amazing. But that, I will say, that has definitely changed a lot in the past 3 years, I think, with a lot of companies coming about, that they've gone for that, they've attacked that, they've tried to prove that you can do great labels, great marketing and packaging without sacrificing the formula, and you guys would be one, which would lead me to the fat burner you guys just, the drip, if I remember correctly. That one, like, of all the products you guys have done, and the few that you have done since hitting the market, I was really quite surprised and impressed at the same time, because the formula on that is pretty well rounded, a little more comprehensive, I would have felt, than Menace or even Sick Pump, focusing on one category. But then you went and just went all out on that label. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but it's it's got shimmer, it's got shine, it's got glitter in it.
Yeah.
What was the idea? Like, honestly, I mean, we've seen companies before, like, put extra effort into a category just to stand out, to appeal to a wider audience, or to like be more eye-catching. What was the reason behind putting that, what seemed to be extra effort, into the fat burner?
Well, to be honest, if you started from Menace, it was the first label we did, and the ideas of the graffiti and the spray paint, obviously, they replicate a Naughty Boy as such. And in the early days, we was even looking at, your Menace, the Dennis the Menace type, aspects. So things like that did fit into the Menace label. And then you've got Sick Pump, where you've got, broken glass, as if the glass has been shattered again, something that you might, a young naughty boy might do. And the branding, it's endless really, the way you can come at it. But the drip is from, obviously a heated fat burner is going to make you sweat and it's going to make you drip. And a lot of people think that that's the angle that we're coming from. And in a way we are, but a lot of rappers call the jewelry drip, and, it represents naughty boy again. And, you get a lot of youngsters saying dripping in, whether it's the clothing, the fashion, jewelry, watches, and it brings it back to the brand again. So we went with the diamonds, raised diamonds on the label, and to be honest, it looked really cool. The products land this week, and to be honest, it's sold out. It's about to sell out tomorrow, so the stock won't arrive till Thursday, Friday, and it's actually sold out. So, wow. Really happy with it. I'm happy with the formula. I'm happy with the label. You could say it's the best label so far, but we've got another 2 dropping probably this week and the week after, which, whichever way, depending on how you look at it, you could say different.
Yeah, to be honest, that makes sense. Now you mentioned to go with the theme, it was just the glitter thing. Like, I've only seen maybe a handful of brands do it, and they typically do it for something special. But I think you would be the first one I've seen do it for anything outside of the pre-workout category. There are about 4 brands that I know that have done it, but yeah, it's an interesting take, and it's again, it's just cool, and it does make sense. I guess you've grown, expanded, and got more ideas. Were there any categories that you've done so far that you were, well, not any categories you've done so far, are there any new ones you're looking at doing? Because you've hit, I noticed when you did, Menace and then Sick Pump, kind of in the same realm as pre-workout, and then you had the Sick Pump spin-off with a lot more focus in the mix. Are there any new categories that you're wanting to hit, whether it be like, in the coming weeks or in the coming months or years? Is there anyone that you really, really just, like, as a veteran, as an experienced person, is there anything you want to bring some flavor to, but it's taken some time?
Well, yeah, before I move on to that part, going back to the Sick Pump situation, that was quite a difficult decision when we brought out Sick Pump, because you seen at the time the pump nootropic formulas, and I was back and forth, whether I bring something out completely pretty much focused on pump, or I went down the other route of doing a pump nootropic type formula. And we did decide to go with, more just pump really. We did add 1 gram of L-tyrosine to the Sick Pump formula, which, will give you some focus. But it was, the idea of that was when you stack it with Menace, you're then getting 2 grams of L-tyrosine plus your 600 milligrams of alpha GPZ or alpha zone. So in my head, it was more based on stacking, that it wasn't just to try and say, well, it has got some focus elements. So that was a hard decision, and that is the reason why we've come out so quickly with the Sick Pump Synergy, because I felt, even though Sick Pump has been very successful, there is other products out there that are still probably overtaking it due to the focus element. So we wanted to try and eliminate that pretty early. And then the decision then is, do you still stick with the current formula as well as the Sick Pump Synergy, which we have decided we are going to do. So that was the reason for the Sick Pump Synergy released so fast. The other ones is that we wanted to try, and even being a lifestyle brand, it's quite hard to incorporate raw ingredients, or maybe a couple of raw ingredients. And creatine monohydrate for me, being in the industry quite a while, it's an important supplement to have in your brand, I think. So we wanted to find a way to bring that in. So we decided to add Actigen and Astrogen to that formula to make it a little bit different, but also be able to bring that into the brand. And then we also, brought out the Naughty Raws line, which will continue to bring out more products, which one of them is due probably September. So that might answer one of your questions that we will add to that. We will add to that category in September. But to be honest, without saying too much, we're going to have some big hitters, and we expect to launch a product every month of the rest of the year. That's taken away. We've got Wise Guy, we've got Power. They're both due in July. We've got Sick Pump Synergy due in July, and then we expect to do a product every month for the rest of 2020.
Oh shit! Wow. And the other interesting thing that I've noticed with Naughty Boy is that, as we talked about before, this was that you were picked up by Prometheus, and I imagine there are other distributors as well. I imagine there are other outlets and retailers that picked you up, but has that played a big role in being able to expand so quickly? Because I noticed, again, a lot of companies come onto the scene and they'll be direct to consumer and they won't have those, volume outlets, and they won't pump out new products as fast. Has that played a big role in giving you the ability to do that and to keep things fresh and exciting?
Well, to be honest, it's in a way, you do want people knocking on your door for your brand, but in another way, it's made things quite hard for us and complicated, because in the UK, you've got 4 or 5 main distributors, and 3 of them we've had to, basically not give them the brand, and that's based on we don't want any pricing wars in the UK, which sometimes if you've got too many distributors, the brand just gets saturated and people are fighting for sales, and the pricing gets affected. So we didn't want that. So we decided to go with 2 UK distributors. One based on I've got a personal relationship with them, that they used to actually buy some brands for me when I was a distributor, and I've got a good relationship with them and there's trust there that I know they will look after the brand, and they're building quite quickly as a company themselves. And then the other company that we decided to go with are probably not that experienced in distribution, but quite good in terms of social media and drawing attention to the brand that way. And there wasn't any commitment in terms of volume with this company. We just wanted them to get behind the brand in terms of getting it across on social media. And that's worked really well. They don't conflict at all with each other, and it's working really well. And then in terms of Prometheus, I've got a 11-year relationship with Prometheus, and the trust is there with them guys. The problem is the first batch of stock that arrived with them was just bang on coronavirus, where the gyms were locked down, everywhere was locked down. So that's quite slow, but now already starting to, places already starting to open up. They're already getting the traction and taking on the new SKUs, which is a good sign, because sometimes if you take a product on from a brand and it doesn't do too well, then you're scared then to go and take the rest of the product. So they're very keen on the products, especially Drip. They're really, really looking forward to getting that product in. So we'll see how that starts to go into Europe. Are
there any other parts of the world that have popped up with you? I remember you mentioning Australia, so I was like...
Yeah, Australia's been a bit of a tricky one in terms of, we had quite a few companies from Australia contact us, and we started having discussions with a couple of them, and I thought that was going to be pretty much nailed on. And after discussions recently, going back and forth, it's been a little bit stalled due to a few reasons. So I'm not too sure how that one's going to pan out at the moment. And then we've also had contact recently with a company in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
In Europe at the moment, we're getting constant contact, but we've been letting Prometheus deal with that recently. Yeah, take that recently. Because again, what's been happening, Shane, is if you're constantly dealing with, say, distribution networks and that side of it, then it's sort of, because we're only a very small team, very small at the moment.
Well, yeah, 6 months old,
covering so many, and we haven't got a big team, so we're able at the moment to work on formulations, tasting, branding, and bring out new products. If we didn't have the distributors doing such a good job at the moment, then we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. So it's working. It's working really. It's working really, really well. We're just able to get on day to day with the branding, like I say, bringing out new products, innovation and stuff, and while the distributors ship to the customers. So it is working really, really well at the moment.
The next question I would have got to ask, because I mean, a lot of these companies that I've seen lately have been doing it. I wouldn't say it's the thing to do, and not every company is attempting it. But is there any plans for like a Naughty Boy functional side? And I know in the UK it's very popular in terms of protein snacks and bars, but not just like edible products, beverages as well. There's a couple of companies that have gone that route over the past year or so. Is there any plans, or is it just a category that you like, strictly sticking to sports nutrition?
No, we've got, to be honest, there's 2 ideas that we had, and it was pretty much just after Menace, and I just felt it was too soon to try and jump into that area at this time.
Yeah.
But what we wanted to do is we're bringing out a lot of products that are similar size tubs, similar weight, trying to establish these categories like pre-workout, pump. We're bringing out power, like more of a saturation daily product. You've got the Naughty Raw, so we'll bring them out. You've got we've got Wise Guy. We've entered. To be honest, I'm very, very shocked with the feedback off Wise Guy. To be honest, when we looked at it, it was going to be obviously like it's a nootropic product, but the reaction you get from taking it is quite sedative. It's really relaxing and quite sedative. We've had a few people run it this week, and I tried it twice myself, and I thought it just must be me, but it is quite sedative. So after training, if you've taken a pre-workout, or after training and you want to start to wind down of an evening, it's absolutely perfect. One of my friends who's taking stimulants quite heavily throughout the day, he ran it for the last 3 days, and he absolutely loves it, and I do believe it's going to be quite popular. So on the flip side to that, we're going to look at doing more of an energy nootropic, and the gaming industry actually excites me a little bit as well, and I think we will hit that before the end of the year. And I think it suits Naughty Boy's branding as well.
It does. I would agree with that one.
We've got some good ideas. So then you've got Wise Guy, and then you've also got obviously more of an energy type nootropic that can fit into the gaming industry. But next year, we wanted to get this year out of the way, try and,
build
have
up
a successful year, build up the brand, and then next year, go for some big hitters, protein, and a bar. And energy drinks have been mentioned, your cans, but it's very saturated, and there's some big players in there, and to break into that I see it as being quite difficult. So I'm not too sure, bars really difficult as well, but the idea that we've got for a bar is quite good. So it will be something that we take a punt on.
I do enjoy anything that really comes from the functional side in the UK and Europe. It's just, in the US, it's typically, a lot of the bars you tend to have seen before or had before, whereas it's just got a different wrapper. But when you go to the UK and Europe, it's, some of the products these guys pump out are just, you just didn't expect it. You wouldn't have thought of it, whether it be like something flavor wise or just structure and build wise. It's pretty exciting. I guess the last question I have is, you said you've got a lot of products coming out between now and the end of the year. One a month is going to be insane. If I'm not mistaken, there's like 8 between now and the end of the year. You got the 3 next month, and then the 1 in each month after that. Is there anything that you can share now? Obviously, Wise Guy, we've previewed and shared, and is there anything that you're overly excited about? I know we mentioned before you're pretty much excited about all of them, but
we've got, like I say, Wise Guy, Sick Pump Synergy and Powers confirmed for July. One of them might be a little bit later, beginning of August. That takes us into September. We're going to bring something out, just add to the Naughty Raws range, and then it takes us into October, and we've got something.
Obviously, you don't need to say too much about it.
We got something nice planned for Halloween.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then that takes us into November. I think it's Black Friday, is it? Towards the end of November, we got something for that, and then we've got a big one in December, which I'm excited about.
Interesting.
And we will one of them will be a gaming product.
Yeah, you mentioned. I agree with you. It's a good fit with the brand. I think lifestyle brands have that separation a bit from typical sports nutrition that puts them a little closer to that gaming world, and that's just become a beast on its own. Even though there are companies out there dedicated entirely to gaming, it's been interesting to see your more traditional sports nutrition kind of attempt to take it on outside of just doing an energy product and then like slapping on the bottom of the label also good for gaming type thing.
Exactly. So it's hard. I think with a lifestyle brand, you can fit into so many categories. You can fit you can fit into sports nutrition, but it lets you go into these little avenues which a typical sports nutrition brand might find it difficult to do that. So like I say, we're just enjoying it, and it's not work. It's more fun, and the ideas are just endless at the moment because there's so many aspects of where the brand can go and brand and promote, and so many ideas that we've got. It's just endless every day. We're just coming out with new ideas, and it's just flowing at the moment. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where it takes us.
Actually, there was one more question I got to ask is, are there plans, and I know this is a difficult one that I put in to a lot of companies, is, well, mostly international brands, are there plans to come to the US? Because I mean, our audience is primarily American.
That's a brilliant question. Do you know, I wish we was in the US, to be honest. So many people contact us and think we are a US brand. I think it's just based on branding. But I wish we was in the US because obviously, you know, the size of the US compared to the UK, and that, I think that does restrict us, to be honest, because, you know, as a UK brand, I can't think of any UK brands really that have, you know, hit it off massively in the US. But if we was in the US, I think we'd have a lot more audience to hit for a start. But I'd love to. We have actually spoken to a big distributor in the US, and we have had some talks. And again, the coronavirus situation was
ruined everything.
It was at the same time, but they said they definitely wanted to pick it up again when, you know, hopefully things start to get a bit more normal. But I'd love to. You know, that would be a massive achievement just to be able to, even just to see the brand figure in a few stores over there, a few key stores would be, you know, we don't want to take over the US or anything like that, but just to be able to get into a few key US stores and see the brand in there would be amazing for me.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tough market. As you said, I don't know of any company that's come from outside of America. I had this discussion with someone else the other day. It's just, you'll see American, Canadian companies do well outside of, not household names outside of the country, but you just never see that in reverse. And I don't know if it's lack of communication.
To be honest, I have got a lot of respect for, you know, the US people, because they do seem to, from an outsider looking in, they seem to stick together, you know, promote their own businesses and their own people, where in the UK is a little bit different. You know, people like to see people fail here a little bit, and it is true. It is true. I think people, you know, in the industry, maybe not just this industry, in other industries as well, I think people don't stick together the same the US people do. And, you know, if we was over there, I think the brand, you know, in my personal belief, the brand would do really well there. But in terms of getting there from the UK, with the brands that are already there, I think it's difficult.
There's not many outlets that will that kind of answer that call well. That, like, if you get into here, then you'll be all over the US. It's usually the other way around. Like Prometheus, American brand, Context Prometheus should be over Europe, and vice versa with Australia. So it's not an easy one to crack, because again, it's dominated by American brands, which makes sense, and those guys dominate most of shelves in other countries. So it is a tough market.
Well, the thing is, in the UK, I think a lot of retail stores look at American brands in terms of, sometimes they look at something a little bit different to get it in, so they've got a bit of an edge on other stores in the UK, or they try and get distribution on a brand that nobody else has got, where it doesn't seem to work the opposite way, if that makes sense.
Not, no.
You know, so and that's the problem. But like I say, even if we manage to get in a few stores in the US in the future, I don't know, it would be brilliant. But at the moment, we're trying to concentrate on the UK and nailing down each category as quick as possible, and doing it right. And then also doing well in Europe through Prometheus. We'll see what happens in Australia. We've got a lot of people keen on it in Australia. It's just a case of, you know, either dealing with multiple stores or dealing with possibly just one distributor, and that's proving hard at the moment. And then, you know, just see how things go. Like I say, something that started off as a bit of fun,
it's turned into a beast.
It's starting to go that way, and like I say, we're enjoying it, and let's see where it takes us. But so far, so good.
Well, I think that if anyone's listening that is interested in grabbing it in the US and bringing it in, as much of an effort it might be, I say it'd be worth it. Of all the brands we've seen, and we've mentioned this on our weekly podcast where we go over the news, and even in the news, it's Naughty Boy standing out without a doubt. And I think people thinking you're a US brand is probably a good example and good proof that you have that marketability outside of the UK. It's not one of the companies that can't communicate its message and ideas outside of its own country, which is difficult with a lot of brands. So I think it's well worth bringing in. I think it would be a great fit for Australia. It's very fitting for Australia and New Zealand, even So yeah, thank you for tuning in. It was a great conversation as expected, and
Yeah, great to speak to you, Shane, and thanks for bringing us on the show. And we want to get some, when the drip lands this week, we've got some other stuff coming. We'll get some stuff sent out to you, so you can get your own thoughts on the product.
Definitely, thank you.
No problem, Shane. Good to speak to you, brother.